A very good morning to you and welcome to this live show on the 3rd of December. As we're closing down the year, we are talking to UNOC, and that is in regards to the oil and gas sector. My name is Viola Kusasira, and this is the National Content Awareness as well as Public Engagement campaign by UNOC to let you and I understand how we can participate, but also what is happening within the oil and gas sector of Uganda. And we had a first talk show on the 26th of November with Sarah, who's the head of corporate affairs at UNOC. And today we are here and joined by Peter Bintu. He is the head of national content at UNOC, and he's the best man to tell us what national content is. Peter, you're welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, so we shall start off with the meaning of national content, and that is in regards to the oil and gas sector of Uganda and how relevant that is for Ugandans.
So national content is how, in a nutshell, how do Ugandans benefit from the oil and gas sector? And we've broken it down into 5 major ways in which we get value as Ugandans. So the first way is through employment, getting meaningful employment in the oil and gas sector and being able to get access to these opportunities that previously were ring-fenced for, say, expatriates. Then the second way, which is where we get the most value and value retention as a country, is through the supply of goods and services. So as companies that supply into the sector, we are able to see that money remain within the economy as opposed to when the services are delivered by foreign companies and all of it is going outside of the country. Then the third way is we realize that this sector being new, we don't have the necessary skills. So one of our pillars and one of the things that we are trying to do is to ensure that we skill Ugandans to participate, get the relevant skills, have the knowledge so that they can be able to actively participate. Then the fourth one is similarly on the business side, because we've spent a lot of time trying to ensure that Ugandans have the right skills, but our businesses were being left behind. So we also have enterprise development programs that are targeted to ensuring that Ugandan businesses have the right skill sets, the right capacity to compete, bid, and execute projects in the oil and gas sector. Then the last one, not the least important, is technology transfer. Okay. Some of the companies that are doing services in the oil and gas sector are among the biggest companies in the world. We have a number of Fortune 500 companies that are doing business here. And one of the things that gives them an edge is they've invested in research and development. They have the latest technologies that they employ to make them very efficient. So one of the things that we are trying to do is through joint venture partnerships, encouraging these companies to share some of that tech with Ugandan companies so that we can also start to compete at a competitive level, both locally and internationally. So that, in a nutshell, is what national content is. Because many times people imagine, what is that? Is it content for the TVs? Is it
what is it? TikTok.
Yes, but it's how any Ugandan, you out there watching us, how do you benefit from the oil and gas journey in Uganda?
Thank you so much for that. Talk to us about the difference between national content and local content.
So these are in many scenarios used alternatively, but in our aspect, national content is how do we ensure that we retain value as a country? How do all of us as Ugandans benefit from the oil and gas story? And then what we have called local content is, in most cases, called community content. How do the communities which host our projects, how do they benefit from these projects that we have? So local content in our aspect is how do we ensure that if we have a project running in Bulisa, in Chikube, in Hoima, how do we ensure that the locals benefit? Because in most of the countries, you find the communities in which the projects are left completely unaffected by the projects. They are not developing. So you walk into the project area and it's like another city, and then you walk out of the gate and you're wondering what's happening here. So in our scenario, we've tried to ensure that the communities also benefit and actively participate. And you can be able to see that if you visit Hoima or Bulisa. If you were there 5 years ago and you visit now, you may not believe it's the same place. because of some of those efforts to ensure that the locals actively participate on this project.
Yeah. That's good that you're involved in the local community. That was one of the questions I asked your colleague Sarah, to make sure that everybody in those areas are getting something from these projects. So as you know, what strategies are you putting in place to ensure that you drive national content, the idea of national content home, and that it becomes effective?
So we have multi-year national content strategy, and in that strategy we are trying to ensure that across the value chain, nationals are prioritized. So when it comes to employment, as a national oil company, we are proud to say that we are 100% run, managed by Ugandans. So all our staff are Ugandan staff. And we are proud of that. But also to ensure that we don't just stop at hiring the best Ugandans there is, we also ensure that when they do join us, they remain competitive and they are able to compete internationally for roles in the oil and gas sector and beyond. So we also spend a lot to ensure that we build capacity of our staff by exposing them, ensuring that they have the right certifications, the right skill sets. And we don't just stop at building capacity of our staff. We are, as a national company, also really interested in ensuring that Ugandans as a whole have the relevant skill sets, and we have a pipeline of talent. That in the event that tomorrow I'm not here, we have another able Ugandan who is able to come and fill my shoes and run. So we also invest in building capacity of Ugandans to have the relevant, both the technical skill sets, ensure that they are certified, are able to do work in the sector, but also in other areas which previously were not a core area. So some of the things that we've done around ensuring that we build that capacity is we identified some of the key gaps which existed in the sector, and we developed approaches to ensure that we close those gaps, do trainings, certifications, to ensure that Ugandans are upskilled. On the business side, we realized that Ugandan companies previously were always in a mode of competing with each other. So what we are trying to do is to get Ugandan companies to collaborate more, because the scale of these projects is quite enormous. So you find that not many Ugandan companies can get a contract and run it alone over the long term. So one of the things that we are trying to do is to get Ugandan companies into joint ventures, into consortiums, so that they can work collaboratively, learn, leverage each other's strengths, and learn from each other so that they can be able to grow and compete. And to do this, we hold quarterly supplier development workshops. And the key goal of these engagements is two-way. First, to inform people about where are the opportunities. Because in most cases, someone approaches you and they tell you, these are services that I offer and we've already procured. And they didn't participate because they didn't know this was coming. So in these supplier workshops, we ensure that we communicate what are the things that we are going to do, where are the opportunities, so that people can start to prepare, so that once we run these advertisements, they are ready. But also, there's so many mistakes that we make during bidding. And during these supplier workshops, we try to see how do we help you to close those gaps. What are the gaps? How do we close it? Now, one of the most interesting ones is, in many cases, because we are not very good at preparing our bid documents, we go out and hire someone who says they can do it. Then you find one person has been hired by 3 companies, and this person may not have the time to go and ensure they tailor to each of their clients. So all they are doing is change the name of the company. So you get 3 exactly same bids.
Yeah.
So they can't be competitive. So one of the things we're trying to see is what are the mistakes you're making? How do you avoid those mistakes so that your business can be competitive? And then also on the skilling side, on average for every position that we advertise, we get maybe 1,000 applicants, but some make very small mistakes that keep them out. So our strategy is to see how do we build capacity of Ugandans, not just within Kampala, but across the country, and also have some tailored programs for the project communities in which we work, where we have our projects, so that as we develop as a country, the host communities where our projects are working also grow along with us. Okay, so Peter, let's talk about the progress. So could you please highlight some of the progress or success stories that you can say for sure this was a success in involving Ugandan companies within the oil and gas sector so far? Okay, so we've registered a lot of successes. For a country that is just starting out, we are doing well, and we hope we can sustain it. So as we speak, as at, for example, end of September this year, we had contracts worth about $7.2 billion that had been approved for award. Now, out of this, about close to $2 billion has gone to Ugandan companies. So this is extremely good performance for a country that has not had oil and gas projects before. Then in terms of the actual execution, we have seen contracts, the value spent so far is about in the region of $4.2 billion, and about 1.8 of that has gone to Ugandan companies. So Ugandan companies are actually participating in the sector, and that gives us a lot of pride. Then when it comes to employment, before the project started, we had projected that we'd have employment of about 15,000 Ugandans directly employed. As at September, we had 18,000 Ugandans employed. Of that number, 90% are Ugandans. So the expatriate community in the oil and gas project is just the 10%. Then the communities contribute over 5,300 of that 18,000. So there's also active involvement in the communities. Then when we come to skilling, we've so far seen training of over 14,000 Ugandans in various elements, welding to all the way to 6G level, heavy goods driving, scaffolding. There are some of these areas that for the longest time were left to the people who, for example, are not doing so well. Like welding, for example. If you wanted to learn how to weld, chances are you had to find a workshop somewhere in your neighborhood on the roadside and approach the person, and then they teach you how to weld, and then you say, now I'm a welder. But when we go to the sector, we realize that's not it. You get to train as a welder, you get internationally certified. Then on the enterprise side, we've seen over 2,600 companies being trained and supported to grow their businesses. A number of these have gone on to get contracts in the sector. As we speak of the contractors, because we were interested in seeing, is it the same companies doing business in the sector? Because some people say, oh, oil and gas, it's for the big few. But we've seen over 600 companies participating at what we call the tier 1 level. That is supplying into Total, CNOC, UNOC, and ECOP directly. So over 600 Ugandan companies are participating at that level. And then the companies that are playing at tier 2, the ones that supply, the ones who supply the licensees, we've seen over 800 Ugandan companies playing in that space. So we are seeing a lot of participation, and this is also down to the nature of work that is so far happening. We have a lot of construction, a lot of opportunities around logistics. I was actually going to ask you a question about the available opportunities in this moment for Ugandan companies. But before we go there, you said something interesting, like if I went down to Joe's workshop and asked him to train me and I become a welder, I'm not really that good for, But the question is, that entire process of skilling and training, how then does it affect the rate at which, you're going to be able to have the first oil, for example? So what we have done is, much as we are skilling Ugandans, skilling Ugandan companies, we also have to make sure that we deliver our projects on time and in the right quality.
Yeah.
So the projects are not waiting for us to be ready. We are trying, we are making sure that we are ready for these projects, because the projects have to go on. And much as priority is always given to the Ugandans, we have to see that in the event that we don't have a Ugandan, we get an expatriate who can then train Ugandans. So that as the work is progressing, we build our capacity so that maybe in 6 months' time, the Ugandans can now be able to do the job. So we are being very proactive that national content shouldn't be a deterrent to achieving the targets that we have set as a project. So this is a complementary thing. We're trying to see that as the projects are being done and delivered at the highest quality, we ensure we have Ugandans who are playing at the highest level.
Okay, that's actually relieving, because the whole time we're talking, I was worried about when we shall ever see our oil in Uganda at that rate of training every single person. But now, let's look at opportunities. So what available opportunities can we say in this moment are there for anybody watching that has a company that is legit and they really want to work? So
the opportunities are diverse. So we have a lot of movement of people, of equipment. There's a lot. So there's a lot of opportunities in the logistics space.
Okay.
So, but it's important to know, to be able to tap into these opportunities, what are the standards I must meet? Because if you're going to transport people, there are certain kinds of cars that you must have to be able to qualify. Then there are opportunities around health, safety, and environment. In this sector, health and safety is critical. So you can't walk into an oil and gas project site and find someone not in PPE. That's just not possible. Okay. The way I'm dressed, I can't access any of our sites. So HSE is a core element, provision of PPE to ensure that people work in safe spaces, things to do with civil works, engineering, chemical, instrumentation and maintenance, waste management, hospitality, especially, there's a lot of opportunities. Then we have camp management. We have opportunities of people who supply into the camps. So at any given point, we may have close to 8,000 people working in the different camps within the oil and gas project. So they buy food, they have to eat on a daily basis, on time, good quality. So the farmers can be able to tap into opportunities to supply into the camps. Yeah. Then, so the opportunities, security, ICT, all these opportunities are available. So it's about knowing which companies are looking for which opportunities, what do I have to offer, then ensure, first of all, that you get registered. Because for you to, first of all, even be considered for any opportunity. It's very interesting how you answer my questions ahead of time. So it's like I should not be here. You literally answering all my questions. Because as we progress, the next thing is requirements. What are the requirements? I may have a nice company, think I'm doing well, but then I don't meet the standards for UNOC. So talk to us about the requirements, about that is in order to register into the National Supplier Database. Yeah. But also, how do I get to know about it? I'm sure there are people who don't know about the National Supplier Database. Oh, yes. Yeah. So take us through. So the National Supplier Database first it was created to ensure that as a sector we have visibility into the companies that supply goods and services into the sector, and also to be able to know that we have Ugandan companies that have capacity. So the oil and gas sector created a National Supplier Database that is run by the Petroleum Authority of Uganda. Yeah. And this is where anyone who wants to provide services, goods, equipment into the sector must be registered. So that's a first requirement. And ideally, the key things that you need are 5. You need to be able to be registered, have your company incorporated or registered. So that's the first one, so that we know we are dealing with a legitimate company. Then the second one, we need to see that you have a tax clearance certificate. Okay. To know that you're a company that is responsible, you pay your taxes, compliant. You file your returns, yes, you're compliant. Okay. Then the third one is NSSF. You have a clearance certificate that shows that you pay Social Security for your staff. So because that shows you're responsible as an employer. Then the fourth one is a bank reference letter to see that you have an account. When you get a contract, you're going to be paid through an account. You're not going to come and say, me, I want cash.
Mobile money.
Or mobile money. So you need a bank reference letter. And then finally, you need a URSB annual return if you've been in existence for more than a year, so that we can be able to see who are the shareholders and the directors behind this company. Because now that helps the authority to be able to help to know which companies are likely to be Ugandan companies. So those are the key things that you require to be able to register into the National Supplier Database. The process is entirely online. You just access the Petroleum Authority of Uganda website, and then under the National Content tab, you're able to see the National Supplier Database. You register and you're good to go.
Where can our viewers find the UNOC? What are the UNOC platforms as well as PAU? So
UNOC, you still visit both of us are very available online. PAU, www.pau.go.ug, and then www.unoc.com. So once you access our website, you're able to see all our other platforms where you can access all this information. But also to make it easier to access information about the oil and gas sector, we've collaborated with different industry players to make this information even more accessible. As the oil and gas sector companies, the licensees, we've created the Industry Enhancement Center, which has an office in Kololo, which is created basically to support businesses, local businesses, to help build your capacity and prepare you for the oil and gas sector. So if you have any information you'd like to know about how best do I position my company so that it can participate, you just walk into the IEC and you're able to get help. If you need, for example, help from either UNOC or PAU, they can also be able to get us to come there. Or you can walk into any of our offices. We are open to support, because that's why we exist, really, to see that Ugandans participate in this project. As we ensure we get commercial value from our project, we want to also, part of our mandate is to build expertise for Ugandans and to see that they participate, retain value.
Okay, thank you, Peter, for that. So if you're just joining us, this is Peter Bintu from UNOC. He's the head of national content, and this is the UNOC National Content Awareness and Public Engagement Campaign 2025. And by Laxas here, we have this live talk show to make sure you understand very well what the oil and gas sector of Uganda entails, and that is UNOC at the helm of it. So Peter is taking us through what are the requirements, what do you need to do, are you tax compliant, do you have a nice looking company that does not follow the requirements. So this is why we are here to learn today, and we are so glad that you joined us. So Peter, we are now going to look at the strategies that UNOC has put in place in order to empower Ugandan companies that are participating or not, or almost participating in order to meet international standards and also compete favorably.
So as a company, we have created a number of platforms. On an annual basis, we have a program that we run, the Albertine Agriculture Development Program.
Okay.
In this, we've partnered with the Stanbic Business Incubator, and we build capacity of commercial farmers as well as small-scale farmers within the Albertine Graben, so that they can be able to supply into the oil and gas sector. So within these trainings, we ensure that we build their capacity, take them through what are the quality requirements for the sector, how should you grow your produce, how should you transport it, because you won't be delivering to a camp and you bring, after you've gone and slaughtered your cow, then you put it on a board and then you bring it. No. So we have to take them through all these opportunities. How should you handle your produce? Which pesticides shouldn't you use? But also beyond that, we ensure that we link them to the market. Because a lot of farmers, one of the biggest challenges, you can produce and fail to get where to sell. So during these trainings, we also link them so that they can be able to access markets. We link them to off-takers and exporters, so that even beyond the oil and gas market, they can be able to sustainably produce and get value. Then we have initiatives where we continuously support enterprises, and in the year ahead we want to start supporting them to get certified internationally. Before the oil and gas sector, you may find we had less than 100 Ugandan companies that were internationally certified. But as we speak now, we have over 300. And we want to grow that number so that as many Ugandan companies have international certifications which enable them to compete globally. Because when you get certified, you have been deemed that you have the right processes, the way you handle your business is different. And this helps to make you more competitive. So some of the companies that we've supported to certify have gone from not being able to bid at all to now bidding and getting contracts beyond even Uganda. We have some companies that are now starting to venture out into Mozambique and Namibia, where there are now other oil and gas projects, and that's something that we are proud of. Then we consistently build capacity of different Ugandans. One of the programs that we have running is a welding program. So for this, for the last 3 years, we've run cohorts where we build capacity of welders to go through from 1G up to 6G. 6G being the highest, where you can work anywhere in the world. Now, so far, the people who've been trained to 6G are 40. 90% of those have gotten jobs within the oil and gas sector. And the ones that had not gotten absorbed into the sector, we were able to support with starter kits so that they set up their own workshops. So now they've been able to create employment. They've hired other people. They are now training them. So we recently did a tracer study, and we were very proud. Currently, we are running the 3rd cohort, which is happening in New Peak, another cohort of 20 people. And we already have companies that have already pledged to take up these people because they've realized they are good quality. Some of them work for the manufacturing. We have 2 of our graduates who are working with Chira Motors, and they're doing an amazing job. So those skill sets are also important. Then also internally, as UNOC, we have a graduate training program where we get young promising graduates, people who have amazing skill sets. We bring them in, then we train them for a period of a year. And in that period, we expose them to the oil and gas sector. We give them training. And most of these have gone on to, some of them have grown into UNOC roles, some have grown into Total, into CNOC, and these different players. So we consistently also do that as a way to expose people. A lot of people are always asking, you want experience? Where are we going to get it? So we give them an opportunity to get this experience, get this exposure. But beyond, we also realized sometimes the challenge comes all the way from how Ugandans are trained.
Yeah.
From school. So you come from school and you have a degree, and then you get into the market and you realize, well, I'm not competitive. And it could be because your lecturers also didn't have the right exposure. So some of the initiatives we are doing are training of trainers, where we now expose the lecturers, the professors, the people who are training our future generations, so that we expose them into the oil and gas sector. They get to appreciate which are the relevant skills that we need in the market, so that they tailor their trainings to that.
That's a very good strategy, actually.
True, and to also support training institutions, we also do support with curriculum reviews. As they are developing courses for oil and gas, we support them to review the curriculum to make sure they are relevant to the sector. Because sometimes you may train people, they come out and we've moved on from whatever it is that they were learning. So they come out and they are frustrated. I have a degree, and then it's not applicable anywhere.
I actually think we need to borrow knowledge from UNOC. You're doing an amazing job training trainers. That's a good one. It's the first time I'm hearing it, you know. So from your perspective, how is UNOC's national content focus helping keep the value within the Uganda's economy?
So what we've seen is, because of the efforts we've made, we have a lot more people participating I can proudly say, as you know now, 70% of our procurements are from Ugandan companies, which is significant because previously you'd probably find 20, 15, and that is with effort to ensure Ugandans participate.
Yeah.
So you sometimes look the other way. But now, with the capacity built, we are able to have 70% of our procurement spend going to Ugandan companies, which is good. So that is value retained within the country. Even when we look at the bigger picture, looking at Total, at Sinok, and the different contractors who have a lot of scope, because Ugandans are given priority, you find that in all these procurements, Ugandan companies are given first choice. Then in the event that there is no Ugandan company with the capacity, the next best option is given to a joint venture which has a Ugandan company. And for these joint ventures in the oil and gas sector, the Ugandan player should have at least 48% participating industry for what we call the upstream. So at least you see that Ugandans will actively participate. At least now, if the contract was worth $2 million, 48% at least you're sure some 960,000 is going to remain within Uganda by value of the contractor. And then another big one that we've done where we get international companies is we look at their scope and then we try to see what are the elements within there that can be done by Ugandan companies. Why don't you subcontract those? So we call these national content commitments. So if I bring in a company from, say, the UK, I say there are these elements, human resource management, get a Ugandan company to do this scope. You have logistics, get a Ugandan company to move your things. So that even across those big contracts that have gone international, we still have locals playing in those spaces. So this has helped us to retain value. Currently, we have over 25% of Ugandans retaining the value, and that is looking at just at the contracting place before we get into the salaries, the taxes. So we may be retaining over 30%, which is significant if you put into consideration countries like Nigeria, which have been at this for 50 years, at about 60%. So for a country that's at 10 years of just development, we are yet to start producing and we are above 30, we are doing well. So we hope to continuously grow that value so that we retain as much value as possible.
Okay, so what can an ordinary Ugandan, what economic impact can an ordinary Ugandan expect as we come closer to our first oil?
So there are very many. Because if you look at, first of all, the infrastructure that has developed as a result of the oil and gas sector, it's enormous. The oil roads, the access routes that have been created to facilitate these projects have now also, of course, they also benefit other sectors. Agriculture, it now takes you less time to get your goods from farm to market, so you see the benefit. But also, from the employment sector, if a lot of Ugandans are getting good value in terms of salaries, they then get that money and invest it within the economy. So we are able to see more people being able to invest, better support for family, better education. So all these things are linked in terms of how this sector impacts other areas. Now, once we get into fast oil and we start to sell crude oil, we hope to be able to generate revenues probably in the region of $2 billion a year or so. So this is significant in terms of, for a country like Uganda, that's a lot of money that can be able to go into supporting our budget for the year. So we'll be able to see probably more schools, better quality hospitals.
Yeah.
So oil and gas is not a standalone sector. It's a sector which we hope is going to be able to influence all other sectors of the economy. And we know that this is a resource that's not infinite. When you drill, it keeps reducing. So we must utilize the revenues that we are able to generate in a way that ensures sustainably our economies will continue to thrive long after the oil is gone.
Yeah.
So we want to build oil as a catalyst. This sector should catalyze other sectors of the economy so that As we grow, we utilize this money to grow all these other sectors so that they are much better off than before the oil, and they are able to sustain us long before the oil is done.
Yeah. So how does UNOC work with the rest of the government agencies, such as the Petroleum Authority of Uganda, as well as the Ministry of Energy, to enforce the requirements for national content?
So within the law itself, as UNOC, we have a mandate to be able to ensure that for all our contractors, we have to ensure that they comply with the national content regulations.
Okay.
So we monitor, as we sign our contracts, we see what are the commitments that you have, how many Ugandans will you employ, what are you going to subcontract to Ugandan companies, what are you going to do to support training institutions, and all these other elements. So we monitor our contractors to ensure that that is done. Then the Petroleum Authority does this across the sector for all the international oil companies, all the different, so all of us then report to the Petroleum Authority and then the ministry, so that there is proper coordination of our efforts to ensure that across all our projects and all that we do, Ugandans are prioritized and given an opportunity to participate. And you'll find that this is one of those sectors that if you, as a Ugandan company, you felt a particular procurement was not fair, you're able to walk into the Petroleum Authority and say this procurement wasn't fair, and they will be able to rein in whichever company might be doing that. And even as UNOC, as a national oil company, we have participating interest across all these other projects run by Total Energies, by CNOC. So we also have a mandate to oversee what is happening and ensure that government's commercial interests are protected, but as well as the commercial, the interests of Ugandans.
So are there policy interventions or incentives that have been put in place by UNOC to ensure that Ugandans really benefit and participate?
Yeah, the law has put in place a lot of incentives for Ugandans. One of the biggest ones is when it comes to procurements. If we have two companies that are competing in a bid, and one, for example, has put in a bid price of 97 million and another one of 100 million. The law says for most of the procurement areas, of course, the best evaluated bidder, if both of them are technically competent, will go to the lower priced person. So for the oil and gas sector, they've put an incentive to further drive national content. If the price differential between the two best bidders is less than 5% or less, then the company with the higher national content scores will be given the contract.
Okay.
So if I have a better national content proposition, better commitments, and I had bid a bit higher than you, because of the value I'm going to give to Ugandans, I'll be given the contract. Then furthermore, when it comes to elements to do with procurements, before an international company is considered, we have to make sure there are no Ugandans who are available. So in all procurements, Ugandans are given first priority.
Do you have to finish all of the Ugandans before you consider?
Yes.
Okay.
It's only when we have no Ugandan available.
Oh, wow.
And that's one of the reasons which I used to encourage Ugandan companies to be on the NSD, because that is the platform where we know these are the companies that have expressed interest in supplying the sector. So when we are looking at capacity of Ugandan companies, those are the ones we are looking at.
That's the National Supply Database. We don't want to leave anyone behind using trust forms. We need our viewers to understand so that they get that contract.
So you need to be on the National Supply Database to be considered. Because when we are looking at, do we have any Ugandan available? That's the list we look at. And then one of the other key things we are trying to get Ugandans to appreciate is the value of specialization. For the next phase, when we start to produce, a lot of the services are fairly specialized. So you need to have expertise. A lot of our companies are built in such a way that we do a bit of everything.
Yeah.
So when I meet a lot of people and the first thing they ask you is, for you, what do you want? Not my company supplies IT services. They say, what do you want?
What and then I'll do that.
I'll
that
do
reminds
that.
me of NASA.
Yes. So most of our companies are built the NASA way. You tell me what you want, I will bring it to you.
Yeah.
But that usually doesn't work, because when you're bidding, you have to show you have experience, that you have done this before, you have the expertise, you are able to actively compete. And also, that has also come through because we receive bids from, say, 3 different companies, and all of them are referencing the same expert to do the work.
Okay.
So when they're saying, oh, I can do this work, I have this stuff, you find that one stuff is in like 3 companies because they are not specialized. So this stuff is probably an independent consultant, and he's saying, well, whoever wins, I can work for them.
Yeah.
So that usually limits our ability to compete as Ugandans. And it's one of the things that we are trying to see, how do we build capacity? In particular areas, you find a niche and grow your capacity in that area, and then you can grow, as opposed to doing, today I do logistics, tomorrow I do construction.
You get hired where it's available.
The next time I'm in mechanical services, then the next time. Plus it's also risky because these are not your core. It's hard for you to supervise and ensure that they are delivering the quality that's required. So you find you make costly mistakes. So I've seen a company that got a bid and won, and they were supposed to do some, say, backfilling. But the backfilling was with sand. But because they didn't even read the spec, all their economics had been done using, they are going to come and backfill with mud.
Oh, wow.
So you can imagine, you've signed the contract already, so the client is expecting you to complete the works, and then they see trucks with Maram coming in, and they're saying, where are these going? I'm going to backfill, and they're like, no, we expect sand. So you can imagine the price differential. You might go bankrupt.
Yeah.
Just because you're not paying attention to certain details, and usually it's because you do a bit of everything, so you're not paying attention to the important details. So those are some of the things that we hope to change, so that we see even more Ugandan participation.
And so how does UNOC emphasize fairness and transparency when awarding some of these contracts?
So in this sector,
yes,
and specifically for us as UNOC, every contract must go through what we call a contracts committee, which is set up to review the work that has been done by, we have a number of processes that are set up to all ensure fairness. First, when we make an, they call for an expression of interest. Usually it's open to the companies to come and express interest in delivering these services, and it's open. Everyone can come and express interest. Then they go through technical evaluations to make sure. So everyone who submits their bids are evaluated on the merits of, are they able to do the work competently? So they do technical evaluations and they do financial evaluations. And then we, of course, have to do business in such a way that it's sustainable. So we look at also the ones that have the best prices. And then across that process, there's feedback. In the event that a company feels something is maybe not done fairly, they can be able to appeal.
Yeah.
Then we have a contracts committees internally that just review this process to make sure it's fair. Everyone has been given an opportunity. Everyone who has participated has been considered. The ones who have fallen off, what are the reasons? And we try to see that we communicate these reasons so that people appreciate, okay, I wasn't successful because I made these mistakes. So next time you improve.
Yeah.
So these initiatives help to ensure that the process is fair. But also, there's a Petroleum Authority, which is a regulator for us. So if you feel, I can't come to UNOC because I feel their process may not be very fair, you go to the Petroleum Authority and they'll be able to still handle. So the number of processes that have been put in place just to ensure that as we do this, it is done right and it is fair and everyone is able to actively participate and compete.
So Peter, I believe we are coming closer and closer to the first oil. So what are some of the opportunities you can tell our viewers that you project to be available at that time? And that will ensure almost everyone gets involved, even though I'm not a welder or anything. What are those opportunities?
So when we get into production, a lot of the large-scale things will reduce. The construction, because the facilities will be available. So it will be more into maintenance, instrumentation, ensuring that these equipments run seamlessly. The logistics will continue because we'll continue to have to move people into the different spaces. But a lot of the opportunities will be around the maintenance and operations areas, as well as chemicals, ensuring that the supply of the different chemicals that are used in these processes. But also for the Ugandan out there, the opportunities are still here. Because as you know, we are doing exploration. We are still exploring to find more oil. We have a block that we are doing. There's an upcoming refinery project, which we also intend to do. The refinery project is projected to create over 32,000 jobs for Ugandans. And then we have an industry park, a Kabalega Industrial Park, which houses our second international airport. It will house the refinery, but then also house all these different petrochemical industries, hotels, and the facilities that will partake of the refinery. Yeah. So all these are opportunities. So there's going to be a lot of construction, a lot of movement of different elements in and out of the Albertine. But furthermore, in our mandate as the sole importers of petroleum products into Uganda, we currently run a 30 million storage facility in Jinja, the Jinja storage facility. But we've realized this is no longer sufficient. So we are going to expand it with an additional 10 million liter capacity, and then also to supplement that 40 million in Jinja, we hope to do a 320 million storage terminal in Bulova, the Kampala storage terminal. So these projects are also going to bring a lot of opportunities for civils, welding, a lot of fabrication. The people who supply steel, cement, all
I see
these
the big picture now. Yeah.
are going to be available for Ugandans to participate. So what is important now is for a Ugandan company, if you are a company, to ensure that you are able to appreciate what are the standards for the kind of work that I do. One of the biggest examples I use is logistics. Most Ugandan companies that were in the logistics space, if you have a car that is 2010, you're thinking, I have a good new car. Actually, they call it a new car. Now, when it comes to the oil and gas sector, you find for you to be able to transport people, and you need to have a car that's less than 5 years old and below 100,000 kilometers.
Wow.
So most of our cars, the second-hand cars, the ones that some of us buy, at 100,000 is when you import it. But now that cannot be able to work in the sector. So you need to appreciate what are the requirements for the kind of business I'm in, so that even as you bid, your bids are competitive.
Where do we find those detailed requirements again? So
across all our different websites, we have, as you apply for a particular area, you'll be able to find what are the requirements.
Okay.
So you need to be able to pay specific attention, even when it comes to driving times. For the sector, cargo trucks don't drive past 6 p.m. They don't drive before 6 a.m. So if you're bidding and you're quoting, you can't quote that you'll be driving through the night, through the day.
Okay.
So all those elements, they seem small details, but they're important. Because if you are driving your truck for 2 days, because of that, you may have to drive it for 4 days. Because we have to ensure safety above all.
Yeah.
Then the speed limits and all these different elements. So the same applies to every other sector. There are particular quality requirements. A kind of cement that is used may not be the one that you use when you're constructing at home. So you need to appreciate that steel grade and all these different elements. So you need to pay attention to what are the quality requirements, because we do not compromise on quality. Safety is key. Then know, how do I tap into these opportunities? When are they coming? If I can't do the scope, can I partner with someone? Can I join hands with someone else, and then we are able to participate together so that you're not left behind? So give this an effort. The opportunities are there. I can tell you 100% there are Ugandans who are better off. They are now set.
They are bowling.
Yes.
So I like that you point out partnership, because, you know, if you can't just do it alone, then there is an opportunity to partner with someone and get taken up by UNOC. So how is UNOC ensuring that that national content goes beyond just the oil projects, but rather into the larger long-term industrial and economic growth?
So some of our successes have seen other sectors coming into UNOC to benchmark. So we've had benchmarks from the nuclear energy teams, we've had benchmarks from the road sector, we've had benchmarks from construction, because they realize there's something that we are benefiting. We are seeing Ugandans participating, but still the quality is not being compromised. So now other sectors of the economy are picking it up.
Yeah.
I recently participated in a PPDA engagement where they were saying we need to do a lot more local content, national content. And I was thinking, okay, now we are starting to get there. We are starting to go national, because ideally this is something that should be ideally the way to work for every company. We need to be able to support our local people to grow and be able to be competitive. And this is not like discrimination or anything like that, but we have to be actively supporting Ugandans and Ugandan businesses so that they can be able to compete and take up opportunities which can be done by Ugandans.
I think the key element that is very good with UNOC and how you involve being Ugandans is because you have an element of skilling and training, which for some other people in other sectors, they may not have the chance to do that. So you'd be like, instead of bringing in someone with poor vegetables or food, why not get someone who has good quality? Yeah. So I think that's the advantage that you have.
That's true. We try to ensure that we empower. But one thing, even as we do empowerment and skilling, one thing that we continuously say is quality is not a negotiable. You must deliver quality. So even when you're doing your vegetables, the way you deliver them must be of the quality that meets your client's desires. And sometimes we had a scenario where we had people who were farmers and they would deliver their meat on a motorbike, and we tell them this can't work. And then they'd say, but if other Ugandans buy this meat, what about you? So one of the things that we said was that we got to appreciate is if, for example, you bring bad meat and then people get food poisoning, and then the entire camp is not able to work for let's say 3-4 days, who is going to incur that cost? Yeah. So we have to put quality across everything that we do. And this is something that we need to do as Ugandans, that we prioritize and brand ourselves as people who deliver quality.
Thank you for that, UNOC, really, for not tossing the guy with the meat on a border to go back home. Where would he sell it? He needs UNOC, and you're teaching him instead of casting him away, which we appreciate, really. So looking at future projects like the refinery, ECOP, and the industrial park, how are they going to expand opportunities for the rest of us Ugandans?
So these different projects are going to attract a lot more bigger companies as well, which are going to come and invest in Uganda. They're going to come and partner with Ugandan companies. So there'll be an array of opportunities. A lot of people are worried about when Tileng and Kingfisher, when we start to produce, where all these people we've trained going to go. Yeah. But they can be able to be absorbed into other sectors of the economy. Because as we build capacity, we've tried to ensure that we can be able to have the transferable skills where people can be able to seamlessly move into other areas of the economy and continuously to support the growth. Yeah. And we hope that they can be able to take the lessons from the oil and gas sector and transfer them to the other sectors so that we build our country as a whole, not opposed to just one sector thriving and then the rest are wondering, are we in the same economy or something else? So,
are we in the same Uganda?
Yeah.
So Peter, as we close, we'll give you an opportunity to speak to our viewers and talk to them about those are the professionals and the businesses who have hope or who have been convinced this morning that they have to join, the bid for contracts with UNOC. What would you say to them from your experience working with the national content?
So from my experience, I encourage you to try. Because the first thing to do is before anything, you have to get into the room. So don't be there and throw yourself out of contention because you think, oh, these opportunities are too big for me. Start, come into the room, bid. Then we can tell you this is what you're doing wrong, this is what you need to do better. Then for individuals, similarly, if you're looking for an employment opportunity, you have a job, come and try. The sector is open and it's wide. And for the first time in a while, you have people who are willing to help you. So teams like mine are set up just so that we can help Ugandans to participate and be competitive. So when you have an issue, please come. We are available to support you, to guide you, and to link you to the people who may be able to give you additional help should you need it. So feel free to come anytime, walk into UNOC or any of our offices on our platforms, and we'll be able to support you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Peter, for your time. And thank you, viewers, for joining us this morning. It's been the UNOC National Content Awareness as well as Public Engagement, where they are trying to reach out to you and I and inform us on what we can do in order to be a part of the oil and gas sector rather than watching from the sidelines. My name is Viola Sasia, and until next time, keep on the lookout for opportunities from the oil and gas sector of Uganda through their website and other platforms, social media platforms, and you'll be able to get to eat on that money as well, as Peter has said it. Otherwise, I wish you a wonderful day ahead of you.